Four key issues in this chapter. Where is the world's population distributed? Why is global population increasing? Why does population growth vary among regions? And why do some regions face health issues? Today we're going to start with where is the world's population distributed? 2/3 of the world's inhabitants are clustered in four areas: East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Europe. You're going to be getting a map in class that shows the different geographic regions of the world, and you're going to have to know them like the back of your hand, and you're going to have to be able to answer these quickly and accurately. When we say East Asia, the countries that should automatically spring to mind are China, Japan, Korea. When we say South Asia, the countries that should automatically spring to mind are India and Pakistan. Southeast Asia, the countries that should spring to mind are obviously Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, and of course Indonesia, the most populated of that area. When we talk about Europe, you need to even designate the difference between Western and Eastern Europe. Site and situation of population clusters. Low-lying areas with fertile soil and temperate climate. Majority of the world's population lives within easy access to water, within so many miles of water, and within temperate climates, which means within so many degrees north or south of the equator. And once again, 2/3 of the world's inhabitants are clustered in these four areas. Notice North America not among them. If you look at a cartogram of the world's population, which shows you proportionally the size of land area compared to population, you'll see East Asia with China and Japan, followed by South Asia, India and Pakistan, Southeast Asia dominated by Indonesia, then you have Europe, Africa, North and South America. Persons per square kilometer, you can see the population density here. Once again, East Asia, the densest, South Asia, here in Indonesia, and Southeast Asia, and then in Europe. And then you can see by comparison where the United States and North America falls. Sparsely populated regions. Humans avoid clustering in certain physical environments. Bottom line, if it's too dry, it's too wet, too cold, or too high, that is not good or sustainable for human life. Too dry, obviously, water is the key necessity for life. Without water, you can't grow agriculture. Without agriculture, you can't sustain large populations. If it's too wet, a lot of people think, well, living on a Caribbean island in a tropical paradise is the way to go. But believe it or not, if there is too much rainfall, that washes away all of the nutrients in the soil, and it is hard to also sustain agriculture. So you don't see a lot of heavy-duty agriculture in tropical climates. Too cold, obviously you can't grow crops there. Too high, altitude also has a big effect. There is one exception to high lands. We see a large percentage of South America's population clustered in high elevations, and that's because a lot of South America is in the Andes Mountains, and those countries with the Andes Mountains, their populations are clustered in high land, so they're the one exception in South America. Places considered too harsh for occupancy have diminished over time. The ecumene, that's the human settlement of the earth, the places where people live, have expanded over time. Throughout history, as man has grown in scope and nature, the ecumene has expanded. There are very few, if any, places left today on the earth where man does not reside. If you take a look at this time-lapse map, 5000 BC, the areas highlighted in green represented the earth's ecumene. By AD 1, by AD 1500, and by AD 1900. This has even expanded more since then. Where is the world's population distributed? We're going to focus here on population density. Density can be computed in up to 3 ways for a place. There's arithmetic, physiological, and agriculture, and you need to know the 3 different types of densities. Arithmetic density, the first one, is the total number of objects in an area. It's real simple. You divide the population by the land area. So you say there are 50 people per square mile. It's a simple number, arithmetic density. Physiological density is the number of people supported by a unit of arable land. Arable means farmable. So you divide the population by arable land. So you might have a number that's a little bit different, but once again, in physiological density, you're referring to the population divided by the amount of arable land. Agricultural density is the ratio of the number of farmers to the amount of arable land. So you divide the population of farmers by arable land area. For example, in the United States, the total population of those engaged in farming now is only around 2%. So very small number of farmers, a lot of arable land in the United States. So our agricultural density is a lot different than, say, a country like Egypt, where most of the farming takes place along the Nile River. All of their farming takes place there. A high number of farmers, intensive agriculture up and down the river, so their agricultural density is a lot higher ratio than, say, the United States. Here you see simple arithmetic density, persons per square kilometer. Once again, East Asia, highly concentrated. South Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe. Okay? Remember, these regions, you need to know them quickly and what countries we're talking about when it comes to them. Persons per square kilometer of arable land. This is physiological density. So as you can see in places, especially here in North Africa, we mentioned earlier Egypt, along the Nile River, they only have a limited amount of arable land, so all their agriculture takes place there. It's nothing but farms, okay? Nothing but farms. The more developed countries, which we'll refer to later on, you'll see that their physiological density is a lot lower. They have more arable land and a smaller percentage of their population engaged in agriculture. Here we are looking at agricultural density, farmers per square kilometer of arable land. So you see in these areas of heavily shaded green that there is a large percentage of farmers engaged in farming. These countries rely heavily on subsistence agriculture. Many of the people living in these places in sub-Saharan Africa, along the western coast of Africa, and especially here in South Asia and East Asia and Southeast Asia, these populations all have to grow their own food. So everybody is engaged in every available inch of farmland to grow their food. Notice you go up here to Greenland. Very little land, obviously, because it's too cold for agriculture. By comparison, Iceland, right here, a lot of it is involved in agriculture, and the climate is supportive enough because it's below the Arctic.